Good people YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and today I've got another special watch, and it's a watch that I've owned for about 4.5 years now, and that's the Omega Speedmaster Sapphire Sandwich with the 1863 movement. And I've been thinking about it even more lately just because of the new 3861 Speedmaster that was released earlier this year. Also, another big reason why I want to talk about it is because it's now gotten a whole new lease on life pretty much, and that's all down to Uncle Seiko's recreation of the 1479 bracelet, which is also the style of bracelet that's on the new 3861 Speedmaster. So full disclosure, I reached out to Uncle Seiko about the Black Bay 58 bracelet that he makes because of my well-documented problems with the OEM bracelet for Tudor. And I also asked him if I could take a look at the 1479 bracelet as well, because I don't like the original bracelet that much. So, you know, Uncle Seiko being the awesome guy that he is, he sent me both bracelets and I don't have to send them back. And I won't be, because they're both amazing. So yeah, we'll talk about the bracelet a little bit later on in the video, because it seriously changed the whole experience. So yeah, lots of thoughts on my last 4.5 years of the Speedmaster. So yeah, let's get into it. One last thing. So I was on Uncle Seiko's site and I found a bizarre compatibility trick for another watch, and something that I never expected, but it worked beautifully. So yeah, stay tuned for that a little bit later on. Okay, so let's just get the numbers out of the way, and everywhere the watch is shown as 42 millimeters, which it technically is from inside of the case to the crown guards. But in reality, the watch wears much smaller than that, because from the top when you're looking down on it, you only really see the bezel, and that's 39.7 millimeters, which is actually the same as the overall case diameter of the first Omega in space. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it is 42 millimeters and it does wear a little bit bigger than the first Omega in space, but I mean, it definitely doesn't wear like a 42 millimeter watch. It's a lot smaller than that. Also, in terms of thickness, it doesn't really wear thick at all, and that's really all down to the fact that the side profile of the case is quite segmented, I guess you could say, and that the bezel is its own visual element, and then the mid case is super thin, which helps with hiding thickness, and then also the case back tapers in quite a bit, which helps a lot too. So yeah. And also in general, the thickness of 13.7 millimeters isn't very much at all for a chronograph, and even for some divers, honestly. So yeah, the dial and hand layout is just about perfect for me in terms of what I think a chronograph should be. First of all, I love that everything is purely black and white. I mean, I love this combo because it just screams brutal efficiency and legibility just because of how contrasty everything is. Then on top of the black and white color scheme, I absolutely love how everything on the dial is as simple as can be, but you know, at the same time, it doesn't look boring at all. The stick and hand indices are super simple, but when you think about it, I mean, you really don't need anything more than this to make a watch super legible. And actually, for a chronograph, it's best to keep the hands thin and simple so that when the minute and hour chronograph subdials aren't obscured very much when the main hour and minute hands pass by it. And of course, the loom is great. I mean, especially for a chronograph as well. And I wouldn't expect anything less from an Omega, but the loom is evenly applied, and when it's charged up and when the loom isn't splotchy at all, and it's crisp, bright, and long lasting, which is awesome. So when I first decided to get the Speedmaster all those years back, I was pretty much set on getting the classic OG Hesalite version, just so I can stay true to the history of the Speedmaster, and so I can feel like an astronaut for that matter. But when I actually went to the Omega boutique and I saw the back of the Sapphire Sandwich, the Hesalite version pretty much didn't stand a chance. I mean, just look at how amazing the movement looks. I mean, I just love the depth of the movement and being able to see all the parts of the chronograph moving around when I push the chronograph pushers to start, stop, reset the movement. And to this day, looking at the movement is just so much fun, and I don't really think this is ever gonna get old, ever. And also, there aren't very many hand-wound integrated chronograph movements like this that you can see from the back, especially at this price point, which makes, you know, being able to see this movement, you know, that much more special. As for the rest of the case, the first thing that always catches my eye is the twisted lugs. I mean, they look so special and it adds so much character to the watch, especially when it's on the strap, because it emphasizes the lugs even more, considering, you know, how the brushing also falls inwards, which is just so good. Also, I love the giant bevel that runs on the top of the case because it makes the case feel unique. And finally, the brushing on the sides of the case is just next level, because there's just something about the way Omega brushes metal that makes it just look so cool and different compared to anything else that's on the market, which is, I have honestly no idea how to explain it, but it just seems to have an extra dimension to it. But what I do know is that on Omegas with more brushing on the case, like my Seamaster 300, you know, rest in peace, the finish is even more apparent, and I can't stop obsessing over how good it looks. So yeah, oh, it's good stuff. The original bracelet didn't quite do it for me because it was a bit chunky, a bit heavy, didn't flex very much on top of that. So, you know, pretty much after the first week of owning the watch, I've never worn it on the bracelet. But now that I'm much more of a bracelet guy, I wanted to get a bracelet that was, you know, comfy, that didn't cost more than actual watches out over there. Yeah, I absolutely love this Uncle Seiko 1479 bracelet, and it seriously has breathed a new life into my Speedmaster because it makes it feel like a vintage Speedmaster-ish while still being a solid bracelet that is well finished and well made. Oh, and just a heads up, my particular bracelet is the version with the brushed center links and the solid end links. So the bracelet itself feels lighter than other bracelets, which is a plus for this watch just because it adds to the vintage vibe that Uncle Seiko was going for from the start, considering that the bracelet he makes for the Speedmasters are based on bracelets that no longer exist pretty much. And yeah, and also I just like having a lighter weight watch anyway. The links themselves are individual links and they're kind of fully articulating, which is something I love to see because it just makes watches sit on the wrist much nicer and just be more comfy. And also there's a good amount of flex, which adds to the overall comfort. And the links taper from 20 millimeters to 15.3 millimeters, which is perfect, which is awesome. The one thing that I'm not a huge fan about is the clasp, just because it can be a little bit tough to open with short nails and sometimes a bit stressful to take out anyway. But I totally get that this is supposed to be a vintage bracelet and this sort of clasp is accurate to older bracelets, and just know that it is very, very secure, so it's not going to be, you know, flying open or anything like that. And I must say, looking down at it on my wrist really makes me feel like I got a vintage Speedmaster, which is fun. And on top of that, Uncle Seiko did mention to me that he has made a new clasp for some of his bracelets. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you know, what he's come up with on that end. So while I was on Uncle Seiko's site, I saw his watch compatibility chart over there, and I saw that only the Holzer bracelet from the Speedmaster was compatible with other watches, and that other watch was the Diver 65, which to me was pretty random, honestly. But then that got me thinking, you know, maybe the Diver 65 bracelet is reverse compatible with the Speedmaster then. And the answer is absolutely yes. So the bracelet end links fit very nicely and very flush against the top of the case, but they are a bit loose and they move up and down because they aren't long enough. So to fix that issue, I used a bit of museum putty here, and I stuck it in between the end link and the case to make sure that the links stay put, and yeah, problem solved because it worked really well, and now it's actually genuinely an extra bracelet option for me. Like, I would totally wear this out and about because it's that secure. So yeah, if you got both watches, you know, definitely give it a go. It's super random, but super cool. So yeah, the Strapmonsterability is super strong with the Speedmaster, and I would actually go so far as to say that this is the biggest strap monster that I've ever owned. And I think a big reason is that for that is because I personally view chronographs, especially the Speedmaster, as more of a casual watch as opposed to divers, which are casual still, but they are a little bit more sporty, all things considered. And because I think of that in that way, the Speedmaster works on so many more straps, which is why, you know, not wearing the original bracelet all these years have, you know, it's never really bothered me. So the dial being fully black and white makes it easy to pair with any color, and the awesome case with the varied finishes, polished and brushed, you know, makes it easy to dress it up and dress it down. And of course, the lug width of 20 millimeters is just perfect. And yeah, because all my straps are pretty much 20 millimeters, and also the flow of the case into a 20 millimeter strap just looks amazing. So yeah, I usually wear it on NATOs, and lately it's been on this gray NATO from Laurier. And I think it also looks equally great on a rubber strap for summer, and then in the winter, I absolutely love seeing it on my suede leather straps, like this gray one, just because it's my favorite color, is as many know. But also I love seeing it on this green suede strap because it adds a pop of color without being too bold. And also all the links to these straps are going to be down in the description. So now on to the hates and dislikes. And actually, I guess for the first time, I think I could say that this is what I hate actually, and that's the lack of a hacking seconds. And yeah, that's probably my only negative with the Speedmaster to a certain extent, and this movement especially. And while I know that this isn't going to be, you know, a big deal for everyone out there, but it is something that bothers me like a lot. And the reason why it bothers me a lot is because whenever I set the time on my watches, I synchronize it against, you know, a reference time, whether it's you know, the Watchville app or, you know, one of my G-Shocks, just because I like seeing and keeping track of how accurate the watch is over, you know, particular set of time. But without hacking seconds, I can't do that. And also on top of that, I like lining up all the hands absolutely perfectly when I set it, just so that when the second hand crosses 60, the minute hand is on the minute mark, not anywhere in between. But I can't do that without hacking seconds. I mean, it's frustrating for sure, but I mean, I guess it's something that, you know, I've learned to live with, I guess. So yeah, this is a question that's been in my mind for quite some time, ever since the 3861 Speedmaster was released earlier this year. And, you know, so for the sake of discussion, I'll leave aside my sentimental connections to the specific watch, because this was my first big watch purchase, and also I bought it, you know, just before my sister's wedding as well. So the new 3861 Speedy has a lot going for it, you know, mainly being the awesome new bracelet, and then also it gets the upgraded master chronometer coaxial movement that's accurate to +5, -0 seconds a day, which is spectacular. And then of course the fact that it has hacking seconds is, you know, the cherry on top. But in the end, are the upgrades worth spending about $2,500 on top of what I would get for selling my Speedmaster? I don't think so, just because, you know, now that I have the Uncle Seiko 1479 bracelet, I've got the feel of the new bracelet, which I am enjoying so much. And on top of that, you know, are the movement upgrades worth the remainder of the price? They're worth something, but I don't think it's worth the remaining gap of that $2,500. But that's just me in my particular situation, since I have the Speedmaster, and maybe if you have a Speedmaster as well. But if you're in the market for a new Speedmaster and you don't own one, or, you know, you have an older one that you want a newer one or whatever it may be, then I think you're coming into an awesome watch, and these upgrades are well worth it, and they will make life, you know, much easier to live with. And yeah, just for a heads up, the new Hesalite version is $6,300, and the Sapphire version is $7,150. So there you have it. You know, all in all, despite the issues that I have with the movement and the original bracelet, I still absolutely love my 1863 Sapphire Sandwich Omega Speedmaster, and now I love it even more with the Uncle Seiko 1479 bracelet, which has this literally transformed the watch experience completely. So yeah, once again, a huge thank you to Uncle Seiko for, you know, hearing me out and sending this out to me over here. Very much appreciated. And on top of that, it saved me from lusting over the 3861 Speedy. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, or if you found the info on the watch and bracelet, you know, useful, do hit the like button. And then if you want to see more from the channel, then hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, just so you can stay fully updated on everything that happens on the channel over here. And yeah, until the next video, good day.